Okay, this PowerPoint is the revealing the man of lawlessness. Now, you'll remember about 2 weeks ago, this one slide rebuke to POTUS to wake up and all the leaders of the world regarding 5G, etc. And POTUS's response that he'll push for 5G as well as 6G. Why should the American people lag behind the Chinese, etc., etc.? Now, there was some kind of BS that came forward after that response that somebody had figured out the hidden meaning of it all, that the wall he was talking about was actually protection from 5G over the American people. Well, we're calling BS on it all until all of the confusion and the chaos surrounding these platforms is dissolved. Then we're calling it out for what it is, an absolute psyop. As we have said before, the way to life is narrow, and few there be that make it. And it is only through the knowledge of Yahweh, his presence here and now, and the meek will inherit the kingdom upon the earth, and the meek are the teachable. So that's just a refresher. Let's get into the meat of this PowerPoint. And I want to prepare you, because it's with a heavy heart that this is being revealed, but it has to be done so that we can take another day closer to paradise. And you'll understand as we go through these slides. Right, this is the planet lineup for the birth of Donald Trump. He was born at 10:54 a.m. on June the 14th, 1946 in Queens, New York, Jamaica Hospital. Time here is Yah's numbers at 11:01 a.m. and this is what the lineup of the planets have to say. Now, the total for all of them, 8456, is found in Isaiah 18:5, and it means cut down, and the reaping of the sour grapes. So you'll understand why this exposure has to come now. Everybody is given an opportunity to do the right thing. Francis was given the opportunity. He could have been a hero had he backed up Pope Benedict's findings about Yah, but no, he had to reject. Donald Trump has had the truth since June the 13th, 2012. He was offered the opportunity to become the hero for the world, and it's all to do with Yahweh, not any other crime syndicate out there that has been he has been fighting all supposedly on behalf of the American people. Absolute BS. So we've got cut down and reap sour grapes from Isaiah 18:5. The inner planets 35.23 for a total of 119.79. The 11:9:7 in the Hebrew Concordance is brutish, and in the Greek Concordance from Matthew 13:30, send in the reapers, the harvest, gather and burn them. We're talking about the tares that have been allowed to grow up with the wheat. The wheat is gathered into the barn, it is kept safe, but these tares need to be gathered up for burning. Here is Isaiah 18:5, for the harvest when the bud is perfect and the sour grape is ripening in the flower, he shall both cut off the sprigs with pruning hooks and take away and cut down the branches. Matthew 13:30, let both grow together until the harvest. And in the time of harvest I will say to the reapers, gather ye together first the tares and bind them in bundles to burn them, but gather the wheat into my barn. Then Psalm 49:10, 49:10 in the Hebrew Concordance is Marshall, for he seeth that wise men die. Likewise, the fool and the brutish person perish and leave their wealth to others. Remember the previous slide, lineup of the planets indicating Donald Trump to be brutish, and you will see why in these coming slides. Now the coming of the Lord is unexpected in the way that he has already come, the judge wearing a pure white garment of the immortal Holy Ghost. He is seen coming from Bozrah, which is Sodom, being the Western world. We are talking about North America. You know, the years that Yah had spent there, has been rejected, and even he unable to find anyone worth saving, and in anger crushes the sour grapes like a man treading the wine fat, staining all his garment with the splattered blood of the crushed grapes. Reading Isaiah 63 verses 1 through to 6. Who is this that cometh from Edom with dyed garments from Bozrah? This that is glorious in his apparel, travelling in the greatness of his strength. I that speak in righteousness, so this is the Lord returning the answer to the question. I that speak in righteousness, mighty to save. And then the question, the great big clue of the influence of Shakespeare on the script. Wherefore art thou red in thine apparel, and thy garments like him that treadeth in the wine fat? The Lord responding, I have trodden the winepress alone, and of the people there was none with me. For I will tread them in mine anger, and trample them in my fury, and their blood shall be sprinkled upon my garments, and I will stain all my raiment. For the day of vengeance is in mine heart, and the year of my redeemed is come. And I looked, and there was none to help, and I wondered that there was none to uphold. Therefore mine own arm brought salvation unto me, and my fury it upheld me. And I will tread down the people in mine anger, and make them drunk in my fury, and I will bring down their strength to the earth. That is their mind. The strength of mankind is their mind, being hijacked by every piece of disinformation on the planet out there. Now Yah says, I have not let on that Lucifer is Donald Trump. He has to be. Yah is here on the earth. So the earthly position that is regarded as the most powerful on the earth has to be the one in that office, the occupation for Lucifer, and that is POTUS, President of the United States. And as you've been learning from testimony, and it's been out there for a number of years, all of the articles about him, backdated interviews you can read long before he became president about this man, that he is the only man possible to be Lucifer, a fool, a buffoon, an egotist, liar. I think the word is narcissist. Yeah, well, narcissists are psychopaths. For those who are aware of our videos, I have shown the coincidences concerning the measuring of the Earth, the solar system, star positions, the Milky Way galaxy, the altar to the Lord, the Shroud of Turin, the use of the King James 1611 Strong's Concordance, English, Greek and Hebrew gematria, and of course the key of the House of David, and dates within the Julian day calendar numbers that is used in astronomy. Overall, I have demonstrated prophecy holds in that I am totally rejected. The rejection prophecy, Matthew 21:42, etc., which is the reason for the rejection. In the Greek Strong's Concordance, the number 378 means God will prove by coincidence. It's numbered 378 is the word anapeleu from 307 and 4137, to complete by implication, figuratively, to accomplish by coincidence, fulfill by prophecy. Now the word itself, altar, is found in Yah's Compu Bible program of the accurate 1611 King James Version, 378 times, hello, within 321 verses. This is the version that Yah purchased for $1,000 while he was in BC, Canada, throughout the 1990s, as it was independently translated by a scholar named Chris Epps, which I verified as 100% accurate. All other translations online are subject to the World Council of Churches, a Zionist institution. The creation prophecy is like a vinyl record. It was thought out, then creation occurred with these coincidences in place. Then the material realm was created. We see that when Australia was first stolen by the Jewish Admiralty, it had already been dedicated to the Lord Jesus Christ by Pedro Fernandez de Quiros in 1606 on May the 14th, familiar date. So this is the New Jerusalem, the Israel of God that has already been declared 342 years before the counterfeit declaration within the United Nations calling Israel a state. The Jewish Admiralty, of course, was that over Lieutenant Cook sailing for England. So de Quiros dedicated Australia and all of the land south of the equator to the pole, to the Holy Ghost in the name of Jesus. Therefore, stealing the continent by the English later with Cook is not the point. The devil has no power over the outcome, as, like I said, the vinyl record has been pressed, and we are running along through time as the record spins down to the end, and the victory is mine. The solar system has crossed the center line of the Milky Way galaxy, and water draining down the sink had reversed in Australia from counterclockwise to clockwise since December the 11th, 2011, remaining clockwise up until December the 8th, 2018. I was told by God to begin taking videos, and so it was watch the water. And so we found the direction was changing every 10 minutes or so from clockwise to straight down to counterclockwise, and repeating up until this date of March the 1st, 2019, as this is also ignored because it is unexplainable to mainstream science. I have explained it, and is the climate change hoax the Zionists invented to make money via carbon tax, etc., etc. Yah says later I will go over the details of the key of the House of David myself. Only I can explain these wonders. Yes, these things will be introduced again for any newcomers who have found Yah recently. Now, every Western leader and all churches are under the control of Zionism. Call it the synagogue of Satan. And in particular, Lucifer, Donald John Trump. The key I speak of is genetic. The key of the House of David is genetic. And what I had to achieve had to be marked by a date that opens the reading of the altar to the Lord, the Great Pyramid. Therefore, the two dates that identifies Trump is first my birth date, January 11th, 1944, as he is 2.4246575 years younger than I. And the next date to identify him as Lucifer when I married, on April the 23rd, 1966. He was 19.85 years old. And that number describes a fool, which is from 1984, and 1966, which is Lucifer. As said, the vinyl record was set before the material world existed. Therefore, Lucifer within Trump sees itself as Christ and elevates its bodily possession in Trump above Christ, and he becomes the son of the morning, while Jesus is the morning star, Venus, a parable to entrap the low intelligence Trump, as Michael Cohen stated before Concordance, which was unusual as his lips were moving and he was telling the truth concerning Trump's ethics. Trump being a liar and a cheat. Normally, if a Jew's lips are moving, he is lying. But in this case, Cohen is taking vengeance and telling the truth, backed up by documentary evidence, including fact checks and statements, etc., etc. I think more than, this is my personal opinion, vengeance, maybe. I think Cohen is actually seeking redemption himself. The 70,000 indictments plus that are out there are very suspect as just being a show to pacify the masses. We still see Obama, the Clintons and others accused of horrendous crimes, of all walking free, and yet daily there are videos coming out that mass arrests to happen over and over and over. Now this is because the Italian mafia and the Vatican are Jesuit Zionists, have struck a deal with the Jewish mafia, which Trump is propped up by. In addition, his position is tenuous, as his sex abuses, along with Epstein, is set to destroy him. He has been maneuvered since birth to become president, as his birth date and time identifies him as the man who is the possession of Lucifer, the head of Freemasonry and the Jews, in the position of the leader of the free world, he thinks. And then we get into the details. Second Thessalonians chapter 2. Now we beseech you, brethren, by the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ, and by our gathering together unto him. Now, this was written millennia ago, however, it's all about today. So the notes in red are bringing this up to speed. So how are you gathered unto him? Well, he's on the earth, and it's through the likes of YouTube and media technology. Coming in the clouds takes on a whole new meaning. We're talking about clouds of data storage, etc. That ye be not soon shaken in mind or troubled, neither by spirit, nor by word, nor by letter as from us, as that the day of Christ is at hand. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, and that man of lawlessness be revealed, the son of perdition. Now, the word change in most is the man of sin. The original word from the codexes was lawlessness, and that is so appropriate. Who opposes and exalteth himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple. Now the temple is the earth, in the temple of God, and showing himself that he is God. That's the office of the President of the United States. How many of you remember God Emperor, Kek, God Emperor, that got him elected? Remember ye not that when I was yet with you I told you these things, and now ye know that Yah withholdeth that he, the man of lawlessness, might be revealed in his time, which is now. The verse goes on, for the mystery of iniquity doth already work. Only he, Yahweh, who now letteth, will let, until he, that is Yahweh's hand of protection, be taken out of the way, as it now is. And then shall that wicked, that's the man of lawlessness, propped up by the synagogue of Satan, be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth. This is what Yah has done over and over, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. Even him whose coming is after the working of Satan. Remember, the synagogue of Satan, with all power and signs and lying wonders. And I'm calling out the Q platform, the Anons, all the confusion and the BS that is being spewed. These are all the means. It's Kabbalah, witchcraft, warlocks and wizards, and then the use of counterfeit Jewish, there is no such thing as Jewish gematria. Deluding the world and leading away from Christ on the earth and the sacredness of his work and revelations for now 3 decades. Remember, I've told you, Adam banned from these lying wonders of the Chans for 88 years for getting into conversation with a Russian man, supplying the evidence for Yah already being here. Continuing, and with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they receive not the love of the truth, that they might be saved. The truth that the Lord Jesus Christ is on the earth already. That's what it is in this day. And for this cause God shall send them strong delusion, that they should believe a lie. And that lie is that Jesus was a Jew, and Zionist Israel, supported by the Zionist Christians throughout all of America, propping up POTUS, that they might be damned who believe not the truth. The Lord's already returned, but had pleasure in unrighteousness, the continued slaughter of the innocents through war in Palestine, the Middle East, and throughout the world, promulgation of homosexuality, pornography, sexual slavery, pedophilia, abortion, vaccinations, 5G, and then the mention of 6G, and chemtrails not being stopped. The birth certificate, Donald John Trump, certificate number 7624, New York City, Queens, Jamaica Hospital. His mother entered the hospital 10 hours before she gave birth to him at 10:54 a.m. June the 14th, 1946. Father Fred C. Trump, Mother Mary McLeod. Fred C. for Christ Trump. The number of the birth certificate, 7624, means adore and praise from 7623. Praise, glory, triumph from Daniel 2:23. Reading, I thank thee and praise thee, O God of my fathers, who has given me wisdom and might, and has made known unto me now what we desired of thee, for thou hast now made known to us the king's matter. Yah, here as the King of Kings, now revealing the matter. Daniel 2:23, aligning with 2 Thessalonians 2:3, 2:2-3. Again, let no man deceive you by any means, for that day, and we're talking about the day of the Lord, shall not come except there come a falling away first, and that man of lawlessness be revealed, the son of perdition. The Trump birth, there was a blood moon that occurred UTC time, 6:38 p.m. London. It was not seen in New York, the Julian day of the blood moon ending in 1985, and that number leads / straight to Lucifer. Again, he was 19.85 years old when Yah himself, April 23rd, 1966, married Lucifer in the flesh, the harlot from Lithgow, 1966, Lucifer. From 1984. So the moon position, timing, this is it here. Julian day numbered 1985 in the Hebrew Concordance, praising from 1984 to shine, to make a show, boast, be clamorously foolish, to rave, to celebrate, to stultify, be mad, worthy of praise, rage, renowned. 1966 from 1984, Lucifer. The blood moon occurred, then moved over Australia on the latitude of 23.19 degrees south, longitude 134.14 degrees east. DJ Trump, born in New York, 10:54 a.m. The star overhead of his birth hour, YBS 1078. It directly overhead. It rose at 1:55 and set at 20:02. At declination 88.84. The Julian day time 2431986. Ticked over 0.12083. This is universal time. New York being 4 hours behind universal time. So Trump's mother Mary arrived at the hospital at 54 minutes after midnight when the star overhead, YBS 6550 from 6544, para, meaning to expose, begin, avenge, found in Ezekiel 24:14, the Lord have spoken, neither will I spare. Julian day number 1986, Hebrew, halam, to strike down by implication, conquer, disband, beat down, break down, overcome, smite. In the Greek, Concordance 1986 is from 1909 and 4685, meaning to draw over, and it says here with 203, the number, meaning implied, efface the mark of circumcision by recovering with the foreskin, become uncircumcised, meaning no longer Jews. There is the star YBS 1078. Right, June the 14th, 1946, time ticked over to Julian day 1986 at the time of his birth, which was 10:54 a.m. New York time, universal time 14:54. 1078 in the Greek Concordance, meaning birthday, ceremonies, birthday, nativity, figuratively nature, generation, natural. And from 3824, bracket, spiritual rebirth, the state or the act, spiritual renovation, especially messianic restoration, regeneration. However, in the Hebrew Concordance, it is Baal of the Babylonians. Bel is his lord, Baladan, the name of a Babylonian prince. Bel is his lord. The messianic restoration comes with the revealing of the numbers by the Messiah in Yahweh, who's already here. And yes, this figure has to be identified. The catchphrase is going forward, working our way through the vinyl record. The date I was married, that is the personification of Lucifer, numbered 1966, Lucifer in the flesh. Eileen Joyce Roseborn, Trump was 19.85 years old. Now, all of these dates and times, these can only be orchestrated by the divine hand. This is totally divine. This is the show, the hand of God, how he orchestrates everything so that it can be revealed by Yah, the key of the House of David, and only he can do it. 1985, again from 1984, which is from 1966, which is what it says, from 1984 in the sense of brightness, the morning star Lucifer. Halal, to be clear, of sound but usually of colour, to shine, hence to make a show, to boast, and thus to be clamorously foolish, to rave, causatively, to celebrate, also to stultify, make, boast, self, celebrate, commend, deal, make, foolish, foolishly, glory, give light, be, make, feign, self, mad against, given in marriage, sing, be worthy of praise, rage, renowned, shine. So the UTC time of the blood moon position, if you remember the time was 6:38 p.m. 638 in the Greek Concordance means choke by drowning or overgrowth. And in the Hebrew Concordance, it just means also. The time 6:38 p.m. 24-hour clock 1838 in the Greek Concordance is practice or habit. And we'll see throughout this PowerPoint how, as Lucifer seeks adoration and praise, having triumphed through his habit or practice of deception and brutish pandering to his own ego to win at all costs and love only for himself until all the peoples of the earth shout for him. Then his exposure by Yahweh-Jesus. Lucifer, his man, Donald John Trump, exposing the power behind his stinking throne is that of the synagogue of Satan. And he is too stupid to realize he has been set up from his sorry birth. He will then choke and drown from the overgrowth of his personal lawlessness and crimes made public. Again, the man of lawlessness, from 2 Thessalonians 2 verse 3. Now these following slides I have compiled. Everything is on the internet, and this is a quote from the Washington Post, and yes, we all know that Washington Post and the New York Times and everything is fake news, fake news. However, the point of this PowerPoint is to take what is out there, because these are the things that point to the man of lawlessness. This is a quote that Trump is fundamentally lawless, can no longer be seriously disputed. His own prosecutors now say he took part in a crime, and his former Secretary of State says Trump had little concern about what was legal. So often, Rex Tillerson said in a talk Thursday, the President would say, here's what I want you to do, and here's how I want you to do it. And I would have to say to him, Mr. President, I understand what you want to do, but you can't do it that way. It violates the law. To this, Trump responded with a well-reasoned legal defense. Tillerson was dumb as a rock and lazy as hell. If you Google search the two words, Trump and lawlessness, about 756,000 results come up in 0.41 seconds. I haven't been through all of them, of course, we take the first couple of pages, which I did. But my point, again, the man of lawlessness, it is associated with the name Trump. Trump, lawlessness and corruption. Trump's island of support is shrinking. He will grow increasingly lawless. The Cohen and Manafort filings show the lawlessness of individual one. And this, of course, is being recorded after the Michael Cohen testimony. Donald Trump and the world of disorder, the BBC. Donald Trump Jr., Democrats are now the party of lawlessness. Goes on and on. Now, in no way, no way are we supporting the Democrats. They are totally all part of the synagogue of Satan. That's the point. Here's another one. In this document alone, if you put in lawless, it's all associated with Trump. I just highlighted here that there is 7 lawless associations with Trump and corruption in this particular document. More from the Google search: Trump's border lawlessness. GOP criticisms of Obama's lawlessness appear increasingly ironic. The aura of lawlessness around Trump is a struggle for us all. Again, pointing out that the man of lawlessness is associated with Trump. The letter, Trump's life story, is a portrait of lawlessness, and I do go into this further. President Trump and birth control mandate, the lawless federal judges, the lawlessness of Trump's immigration actions, etc., etc. Again, the man of lawlessness associated with Trump. On the world stage for this time now. You will all remember the lawless 59 missile strikes against Syria, April the 7th, 2017, in response to a staged Israeli false flag gas attack. Trump, said that no one was killed. Well, he lied. I knew immediately, because you only had to listen to Bashar al-Assad, who is not a liar, describe what happened. Now, in this article, which is straight out of Wiki, you can read all about it, but the second to last paragraph there says 7 or 9 Syrian soldiers were killed, including a general. Russian military personnel were also present at the airbase at the time it was attacked. According to Syrian state news, 9 civilians were also killed in the attack, including 4 children. Sana also stated that 5 of the civilians were killed in the village of Shayrat, outside the base, while another 4 were killed in the village of Al-Hamrat, and that another 7 civilians were wounded when a missile hit homes in Al-Manzur, 4 kilometers away from the Shayrat air base. According to Russian Defense Ministry, 4 soldiers were killed and 2 soldiers were missing. This is the night that Trump was entertaining President of China, Xi Jinping, at Mar-a-Lago, if you all remember. How horrified were me in particular, and one of the Trump, I think it was Eric Trump, tweeted out, "That would be my sister." Her response, she cried, having fallen for the false flag, cried over the pictures of the children, which was all staged. So Daddy dear decided that a missile strike was in order and really killing. And then he said no one was killed, and he warned them ahead of time. Now, more recently, the journalist living in the USA, Khashoggi, his brutal murder and then dismemberment within the Saudi Arabian embassy in Turkey. Again, the word lawlessness associated with Trump. Of course, there's been no repercussions at all. Here's the wiki article. You can read through that by stopping the PowerPoint or search for itself. However, on December the 4th, 2018, a group of United States senators were briefed by CIA Director Gina Haspel on the murder of Khashoggi. After the briefing, senators were more than certain that Mohammed bin Salman played a major role in the killing of Khashoggi. GOP Senator Lindsey Graham said you'd have to be willfully blind not to come to the conclusion that this was orchestrated and organised by people under the command of MBS, that's Mohammed bin Salman, and that he was intrinsically involved in the demise of Mr. Khashoggi. Another GOP Senator, Bob Corker, said that the Prince monitored the killing, and if he were in front of a jury, he would be convicted of murder in about 30 minutes. December the 5th, the UN Human Rights Chief, Michelle Bachelet, asked for an international investigation to determine who was behind the journalist's murder. Now, of course, the response from Saudi Arabia was that the CIA had been proved wrong before, just to mention the invasion of Iraq, for example, because of the weapons of mass destruction. This is what happens in the world of liars. And of course, the response, apparently MBS is best buds with Kushner, and they're text buddies, send each other texts, and of course the holy god of trade agreement is going ahead, $100 billion or whatever. Trade has become the god of this world. And it all, going back in history, how Donald Trump and Roy Cohn's ruthless symbiosis changed America. In 1973, a brash young would-be developer from Queens met one of New York's premier power brokers, Roy Cohn, whose name is still synonymous with the rise of McCarthyism and its dark political arts. With the ruthless attorney as a guide, Trump propelled himself into the city's power circles and learned many of the tactics that would inexplicably lead him to the White House years later. And we are talking about Russian Shabbat, Kabbalah, witchcraft. The Russian Jews left Russia and took over New York. Roy Cohn, a particular piece of dark evil that you'll get to learn about in this, was the mentor for POTUS. A quote from the New York Post in 1974, young reporter just starting my first job, book publisher Dave Rosenthal told me, another Jew, I was working on illegal campaign contributions, and I started looking at the records that had come from a group of buildings in Brooklyn which showed massive donations to Democrat Hugh Carey, then running for governor of New York. They had all come from buildings that I had traced to Fred Trump. My story was published and my editors were thrilled. The next day my phone rang. It was Roy Cohn. You piece of shit, we are going to ruin you. You have a lot of fucking nerve. Shaken, Rosenthal, then 21, went to his editors. Their jaws dropped. I thought I was finished. I was sure Cohen's next call would be to Dolly Schiff, the owner of the paper. Of course, the call never came. The story was true. They had skirted the New York finance laws. Now, I have just screen captured these shots to make points. Again, exposing the man of lawlessness. I will leave links in the description box where you can go and read everything for yourself. It is now is the time for the exposure. Of course, this has been out there for so long, but as you know, Yah's said over and over that his task this time is to hunt down, if you like, Lucifer. And it's Lucifer. That's his job. He's not here for the forgiveness of sins, it's judgment and hunting down Lucifer. This is a classic quote, but there's a better one after it. You knew when you were in Cohen's presence, you were in the presence of pure evil, said lawyer Victor A. Kovner, who had known him for years. Cohen's power derived largely from his ability to scare potential adversaries with hollow threats and spurious lawsuits, and the fee he demanded for his services, ironclad loyalty. Trump, who would remain loyal to Cohen for many years, would be one of the last and most enduring beneficiaries of Cohen's power. But as Trump would confide in 1980, he already seemed to be trying to distance himself from Cohen's inevitable taint. All I can tell you, he's been vicious to others in his protection of me, Trump told me, as if to wave away a stench. He's a genius. He's a lousy lawyer, but he's a genius. And then, yes, there is a very long list of lawsuits, these kind of tactics, both against Trump, but also that Trump has taken out against others. Then later, this is the classic quote, Cohen had also asked a favour of Trump. Could he give him a hotel room for his lover, who was dying of AIDS? A room was found in the Barbizon Plaza Hotel. Months passed, then Cohen got the bill, then another. He refused to pay. At some point, according to the New York Times, Jonathan Marler and Matt Flegenheimer, Trump would press Cohen with a thank you gift for a decade of favours, a pair of diamond cufflinks. The diamonds turned out to be fake. Tensions between the two became progressively strained, and the dying Cohen, he died of AIDS, I think it was August 2nd, 1986, as Barrett would describe him in those waning days, would say, Donald pisses ice water. Now I want you to think about that. In the slide before was described by the reporter that you knew you were in the presence of absolute evil when you were around Roy Cohen. And so here is the absolute evil saying that Donald pisses ice water. And then more recently, quoting from James Mel Rockefeller, his letter to the four generals, this was June 2017, it's all up on his site, Hidden Tax on Humanity, being the constant war for Israel, greater Israel. The greatest threat to national security are those I profile. When he says those I profiled, he's talking about Israel, full time for the past 34 years. They created the loss of confidence in government that enabled this narcissist to emerge as our commander-in-chief. Those responsible would have us believe that Islamic extremists are the enemy, but they lack the capacity to orchestrate the serial crises required to gain traction for the clash of civilizations as a plausible sequel to the Cold War narrative. This latest conflict of opposites did not just happen, nor is it just coincidental that this narrative advances Israel's long-sought goals. Putin is laughing at our predicament. In a Megyn Kelly interview aired June the 4th, he said the US media's obsessive focus on Russian interference with the 2016 election reminds him of how a dumb man who can't do anything would blame the Jews for everything. He may be signalling those I profiled that the public will soon grasp the role that Israel, aided by the Israel lobby and pro-Israeli media, has long played in creating crises and conflicts. The continued failure to concede this fact is making fools of our defense, security, intelligence, and diplomatic communities. Russia is not the issue. In this case, the Jews responsible are using Russia to hide in plain sight, much as they've used anti-Semitism to shield them from charges of treason against our nation as they hide behind the cover of a special friend. As people grasp that their survival is now at stake, they will rightly ask of you, what did you know, when did you know it, and most importantly, what did you do with this knowledge? So this is specifically to the 4 generals surrounding Trump at the time of June 2017. Either engage these facts and analyses or prepare to see an outraged public turn its sights and Second Amendment rights on those who enabled the treason documented in these materials. 2016 saw not an election but a social media-enabled PSYOP. Assisted profiling and psychometric aided micro-targeting put in office an unqualified, unfit and emotionally unsuited man-child. Your oath of office runs not to him but to the Constitution and the office of the President, not a position that Israel, through this classic asset, now virtually controls. The treason is there to see if only you look. Tel Aviv now pretends to relent on its insistence that we relocate our embassy so the world will view Jerusalem as the eternal capital of the Jewish people. Meanwhile, through Trump, anti-Iran hardliners were moved into key positions in the CIA and onto the National Security Council. Consider the common denominator in this lineup of personnel unqualified for the positions they hold. Of course, since the writing of this, Trump has moved the embassy to Jerusalem, etc. It's all part of the show. Jared Kushner, Trump's most trusted advisor, a 36-year-old member of Chabad Lubavitch, a messianic Hasidic sect that traces its origins to Russia of the 1770s. And Yael, or rather Ivanka, is a convert. Ezra Cohen-Watnick, a 31-year-old outspoken Jewish advocate for regime change in Iran, serves as Senior Director for Intelligence Programs for the National Security Council. Steve Miller, a 31-year-old self-described practicing Jew, is Senior Policy Advisor and speechwriter who composes policy announcements for a president with a known aversion to reading. Steve Bannon, at the time, Trump's ultra-nationalist strategic advisor, as described by Jared Kushner. All I know about Steve is my experience working with him. He's an incredible Zionist and loves Israel. And of course is no longer part of the administration. He left so he could do more for Trump on the outside through his publications, which are entirely pro-Israel. So we've got Trump rushing 3G and brags of 6G on the false promise that will make America great again, when it was never great in the first place and has been in every war since independence. Now the Make America Great Again was a slogan that's been out there for years, pulled out of the hat by his controllers. Trump has been told 5G is a mass control, stupefying, mind-numbing, can cook your brain and kill. He's announced the cure for AIDS within 10 years. Trump has been on chemtrails, yet the chemtrailing is still continuing within the USA. Protesters in France demand the Jews out and shout for Trump. Trump is trying to build a Mexico-US wall to prevent a Catholic invasion, as most illegals are Catholic. Now we all know the play of George Soros and his part in open borders and all the BS out there. Soros, who forgave a loan of something like, I think it was about $140 million to Trump. Trump saying, oh, he's a good guy. We are talking about the synagogue of Satan. They've got their man run. As Jesus was the last sacrifice indicates the first temple was destroyed by Nebuchadnezzar in 586 BC, the second temple replaced it with Yahweh. Yahweh as the God of love. It destroyed in 70 AD by Rome, influenced by Antichrist Jews. Reincarnation, the teaching of Jesus when Nicodemus went to him at night time because of fear of the Jews, and he taught plainly about the reincarnation of the soul. Like the sun, it sets and sleeps for a while and then rises again until the time of the end, which is now, when all are back for the judgment. So Yah has written this out. So Yah writes that Lucifer must be a man the masses would not suspect. The Pope, yes, but not a businessman who ran on a platform condemning Bush, Clinton's, the FBI, CIA, clowns in action. They, the major drug suppliers throughout the world. An army in Afghanistan protecting heroin production, hence Poppy Bush, all set up by former presidents, stating he will be pulling troops out of the Zionist masters' target nations like Syria. Yes, so the lie says I'm taking the troops out of Syria, so the world expects them to be coming home, ticker tape. Why does all the evidence point to Donald Trump to be the earthly possession of Lucifer? What is it? Lucifer is a disembodied angelic force which has possessed individuals since the fall of Adam. He, its first incarnation of demonic possession. That's Adam we're talking about. Then Cain, the father of all evil, John 8:44, speaking of the Pharisee and descendants. Ye are of your father the devil, and the lust of your father ye will do. He was a murderer from the beginning, and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it.